Hi, but let's get back to our top story tonight. Ramalinga Raju may be behind bars, but have ground realities changed? Have enough safeguards been brought in? What are the lessons from the Satyam scam? Joining us now, Gupta, former Executive Director at SEBI and the founder of Stakeholders Empowerment Services. Also joining us, Amit Tandon, the founder of Institutional Investor Advisory Services. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Mr. Gupta, let me start by asking you whether the lessons have been learned from the Satyam scam and whether enough has been done from a regulatory point of view to enhance corporate governance. There was a lot of talk when the new Companies Act was being designed and being passed that this was actually going to be, in a sense, a Satyam-proof corporate affairs law. Do you believe that whether it's the role of independent directors or its corporate governance standards, we are much better placed today than we were when the Satyam scam unfolded in 2008?
Okay, thank you. Lessons were learned not today. They had started right from when the scam broke out, and certain actions were taken by the regulator, and moreover over a period of last 5-6 years many changes have happened both in the Companies Act, in the listing agreement, and many regulations that SEBI has. The main problem, as we have seen, was the failure of the audit system, failure of the board processes and disclosures, and we see that in last couple of years lot many measures have been taken which strengthens all these parameters. But if you say sufficient, no law can be sufficient, because there will always be loopholes, and even if there are no loopholes, creative people will find loopholes. And the most important thing is the role play. Even if the systems were not proper, if the people who were manning the systems, if they had played their role properly, then probably this would not have happened. And I would say very simply, if there in audit system there are the standard operating procedures, and if PwC people had followed standard operating procedure, they would have discovered that there was no fixed deposits in the bank. So to me,
okay, let me address that. Okay, so you believe it was a failure as far as the auditors were concerned. Amit Tandon, let me take that point forward. PwC has reacted. It's come out with a statement saying it's actually disappointed with the verdict, and it believes that the two former auditors of the firm will challenge this order legally. But on the issue of the role and responsibility of auditors, do you really believe at this point in time there is a need for us to overhaul the ICAI?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right when you talk about that. If you look at it and if you go back to the events which had happened, the SEC had a fine of, I think, a little over $25 million on PwC, which actually, in other words, the PwC paid out the ADR holders about $25.5 million. In addition, SEC also passed strictures against PwC India, but here they seem to have got away with a rap on the knuckles. But let me make one other point. While there is some excitement about the fact that, look, there is a judgment and white-collar crime, or people who commit white-collar crimes will be held accountable. Let's remember, this was a self-confessed Ramalinga Raju admitted that he'd frauded the company and the shareholders of about 5,000 crores. And then we've taken about 6 years. Now, in case he'd not said it and someone else had kind of just spoken about it and then the regulators had got to it, I think we would still be talking about what needs to happen, what does not need to happen, the changes we need to see. So I think 6 years for a self-confessed crime is an incredibly long wait.
It is an incredibly long wait, and I want to get both of you to comment on that. Mr. Gupta, if you could pick up on that point, because the Confederation of Indian Industry has also issued a statement saying that justice needs to be a lot swifter. The CBI has come out with a press release saying that in record time, the CBI had actually filed the charge sheet in this matter. If I remember correctly, it took about 10 months for the CBI to file the charge sheet in this matter. And we're talking about a verdict now where it's taken 6 years for us to see the light of day.
I totally agree with Amit. It was a self-confessed crime which was done in front of media, and it was very clearly articulated by Ramalinga Raju that how he did the crime. And then we have taken 6 years. But rather than blaming the judges or CBI or something, we have to look into the entire system. First, as we were listening to other people this morning, first of all, we have very poor infrastructure. Secondly, proper manpower is not there, properly trained manpower is not there. Third, our legal system itself is such that it takes ages. And I remember order of Justice Kehar in Sahara matter, where he had said that we had given 85 hearings to Sahara. Now, if that is the system in our country where hearing after hearing takes place and volumes are written, in my opinion, here it was a self-confessed crime, and it was a proven fact that the fixed deposits were not there, nothing was there, so it should have taken shorter time. But again, as Amit has pointed out, it is a system, and now it is not the end of the story here. It will go to High Court, then it will go to Supreme Court. So
absolutely,
I don't know how many more years.
Recourse. Yeah, they have recourse to legal options at this point in time. But Amit Andan, let's talk about the road ahead, and let's talk about what more needs to be done. We talked about the overhauling of the ICAI. What about independence of audit committees, for instance? What about the role of rating agencies? What about the role of independent advisory firms like yours? What about the role of banks when it comes to holding corporate boards accountable?
Look, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, the person who walks the longest and holds the hand of the company the most is the auditors, and therefore there should be some punitive action against the auditors themselves. Because, you know, if the company wants or if the management wants, they alone cannot doctor the accounts. At some stage, someone needs to be working with them. But I'd like to actually just quickly come to, since you spoke about a lot of the other people who are involved, I'd very quickly like to talk about a lesson which we very quickly seem to have forgotten. No matter what you say about Satyam, one of the things was that, you know, he confessed to everything in January. In April, I think it was by the April of 2009, that the government had appointed a committee to look into it, and very quickly it was sold. Tech Mahindra took it over, and about, you know, at that time, I remember Ramalinga Raju's letter saying 53,000 employees. It was important to get them back, to get the company back on rails and working. And that is how we need to proceed. So whether it's the government, whether it's the bankers, whoever is, whether it's the equity holders, whoever is involved, you need to recognize you have a problem and you need to go ahead and fix it quickly. And that, unfortunately, when I think about it, I think I can only point to Satyam. For whatever reason, we hit a sweet spot, we arrived at a solution, and after that, we've let a host of other companies go down the tune. We've let productive assets go to waste. We've let people lose their jobs. We've let equity holders lose money. And we've not said that, okay, let's quickly find a solution to the problem and let everything else take its own, as Mr. Gupta rightly pointed out, let the law take its own course, but let's find a solution to getting the asset up and running quickly.
So who should take the lead in that?
You know, we need to be reminding about it.
Exactly. So do you believe that it should then be government intervention?
It has to be the bank.
Go ahead.
It has to be the bankers, it has to be the shareholders. It's these two, and it has to be a combination. Unfortunately, the debt markets and the equity markets don't talk enough to each other. They need to be talking to each other. There are so many cases which we read about, the NPL levels in banks. I remember Raghuram Rajan saying some time back that there's no birthright of promoters to continue to run the companies. So they need to step in and take and drive it from the front foot rather than wait for someone else to take action on this. And I can be sure, we speak to so many shareholders, a bet of institutional investors would be extremely supportive of any such step.
Well, we do hope that we actually get everybody talking to each other so we don't see the kind of balance sheet fraud that was pulled off, the worst that corporate India has seen. And we do hope that, as Amit Tandon was pointing out, that in the future we are more solution-oriented. Jane Gupta and Amit Tandon, appreciate you joining us here on India Business Hour with your thoughts and opinions on the verdict that's been delivered today, a landmark verdict for corporate India.